right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of That's Bingo Sports Podcast. My name is Joe Hendry, joined here by my co-hosts Jacob Beach and Kyle Eggers. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Fantastic. Happy to be here.
Let's go. Kyle,
happy that
yourself?
Football season is here.
It is.
We've never been more back than we are right now.
I know, right? NCAA underway. U of A had a big game Saturday.
Shout out T-Mac.
I know, right?
Shout out T-Mac.
Crazy game from him. NFL kicks off here on Thursday. We just had a fantasy draft together on Friday. We are so back. We are here to talk football. We had our NFC predictions last episode. We are moving on to the AFC this time. Super excited for that. Man, you guys ready to just dive into it right away?
Give it to me.
Let's do it.
All right. One question, though. Should we start with the Chargers or should we end with the Chargers? You guys decide that one.
Get it out of the way, man.
Yep. Let's just give the people what they want.
Beautiful, because this is
what
exactly
they
what they want. So we'll start with it. Like I said, AFC West there. I'm a big Chargers fan, man. I'm excited to see what this team does. Jim Harbaugh is our head coach. That's the main reason I'm pumped. I'm pumped for what should be a culture change, moving on from Brandon Staley, moving on from Tom Telesco. I was telling Beach earlier how pumped I am that Joe Ortiz is still churning out the bottom of that roster, signing players to the practice squad every day, releasing some. That's something we never got with Telesco. I love the staff he put around him on offense. I love Jesse Minter on defense. Took away some of those big contracts on offense for sure, guys like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. The expectations, I don't think, are super high for the team right now. I think people are realizing that we probably have a better future. But I do think we beat the expectations if Herb stays healthy the full season. Obviously, he's dealt with some injuries the past 2 seasons, played through the broken ribs 2 years ago. But I do think we beat the expectations, man. I think there's an improved run game. I think the pass game will be efficient. I think the defense will be vastly improved from last season. I think this team has probably a double-digit win ceiling. My guess would be 11. They have a fairly easy schedule. I think if things do break right for them, this sounds crazy. I think 12 wins isn't out of the question. I'm going to put them at 10. But I do think Harbaugh and Ortiz, I think they're still working to wear off and purge the previous regime's stink there. But I think this team does put up 10 wins and fights for that final wild card spot there. That's the brief intro to my Chargers this season. I can go so far into depth, but we'll save that for another day.
I don't hate the take. I remember Lance asked us in our group chat to give hot takes about all of our specific teams that we follow. And my hot take for the Chargers was not too far off from what you had just said, Joe. I think there is something to be said about a new coach and a new GM kind of coming in and instilling a culture that wasn't there before, and just what that can lead to. I think that's really something that goes underrated in the NFL. We've seen it with multiple teams that just have had bad cultures over the years that all of a sudden they bring in some guys, at GM and at head coach, and it starts to turn things around. One example that comes to mind is the Cleveland Browns when they had Baker Mayfield, and then they got Stefanski. They got the right guys in there, and all of a sudden they were, a playoff team basically, and a hard out in those playoffs. So I don't think that's too far-fetched for the Chargers. I do like their schedule. The only downside is they happen to play in the same division as Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, 100%. We'll get into him in a little bit here. Yeah, I think it's like people here, like I genuinely do think the ceiling is 12 wins, which sounds crazy, but you think about it again, like there's a lot of turnover. The culture is different. I do think that the team is just built well together. I think they mesh well. It's like, while they don't have a lot of upper echelon stars, which a lot of people tend to focus on, which is great. You need the stars. At the same time, the team is built to succeed. And we do look at what Harbaugh's done in the past in his first season. I think the big thing is San Francisco took a 6-win team to 13, right? Took them to the NFC Championship. Might have been year 1. I don't remember. I don't think that'll happen. We still have a lot of holes. That being said, I don't put it out of the question to be a hot regular season team. Playoffs, different bear for sure. But I think, like I said, I think 10 wins is reasonable. I don't think 12 is out of the picture.
Joe, you keep talking about ceiling. What is their floor?
I probably would give us a seven win floor would be my guess, which would be a two-game bump from last season. I think that would happen. I think if Herb misses any time, and if the defense has more growing pains than we expected. That being said, I trust Minter. I love what he's doing already. I love that he's putting a guy like Derwin James back into positions to succeed like his rookie year. We've signed a bunch of players from the Ravens. We've signed a bunch of players from the Titans in the past couple of years. Those teams have been really hard-nosed teams that just they know how to win. They've been a part of good cultures. So pump for the Chargers this season for sure.
I really like
the take on the team. I don't hate the take. I would. I typically. I mean, if there's any way that I can make fun of the Chargers, I will do it. But their schedule's kind of a cakewalk, low key. Like, I don't know if I'm crazy looking at it, but like, there's a very real chance that the Chargers could start the season 6-1.
Yep.
You know, like
100%.
That's not a crazy take. So who knows, man? I hope that they do. I hope that they rise to relevance and then lose in the AFC Championship for a number of years.
Yeah, no, I think I think, like I said, I think we win 10 games. I don't think we're as good as that record indicates. If we do make the playoffs, we could bounce round one. I would think. That being said, I think this will be a slingshot into what I think will be a really good several years for this team. So, pretty pumped there. So, like I said, we'll get more into that team. I could talk for hours on the Chargers and my expectations for them. But let's move on. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes beat. Just move on to the Chiefs beat. Start there. I want to see. Let's get Beachy's thoughts on the reigning champions.
Truthfully, at this point, I don't think it matters what offensive weapons they have out there, what defensive guys they've got out there.
Mm-hmm.
I trust Andy Reid. I trust Patrick Mahomes. And until either one of those guys is gone from Kansas City, they will always be at the top of the AFC West, and they will always be a perennial playoff team that's contending for a Super Bowl. I don't see this year as any different. Obviously, they brought in Hollywood Brown. They still have Rashee Rice somehow not getting suspended, but that's neither here nor there. They've got the weapons. They've got a good defense still. I mean, it's just one of those things that they have talent everywhere. They're coming off a Super Bowl, and they have probably the best quarterback in the NFL, I think, unanimously. So, yeah, high on them as always. But like I said, until one of those constants change in Kansas City, there's no reason not to be high on them.
Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. I think Chris Jones staying is a big play for the Chiefs. I think that they had a really strong draft. I think Xavier Worthy was a good pick for them, just with the upside that he has. I don't think that he'll be as good as everybody thinks he will be, but just somebody to stretch the field is great. The Chiefs did lose their best corner to the Titans, but I literally don't think it matters. It's like you have Patrick Mahomes. There's not really much more to say. The Chiefs are going to be good. They'll probably win another 12 or 13 games.
Yeah, I have them for, I think, 14. I think the offense took a small step back last year. I think they were adjusting on some things, but I think they'll probably put up 30-plus points a game this year. I think the defense might take a small step back. It's still very good. Like the one weakness I see on the team in general is like some weapons depth, but again, it doesn't matter. And then probably the secondary losing Snead, but it's like you still have Trent McDuffie. You got I forget his name, but you got a good safety out of the draft. So I think realistically the only team would be to somehow sell out to negate the pass rush and hopefully win a shootout against them. I think that's how you beat this team. But even then, you're probably not winning in a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. I think they three-peat, to be honest. I think they beat the Lions in the Super Bowl. So,
you think the Lions make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
I think we actually talked about this last episode. Yeah,
that was the NFC preview.
Yep. I think they beat the Lions in the Super Bowl. So, Chiefs, elite, no rule. I mean, as long as they got Mahomes and Reed, they'll be great. Their front seven is so
exactly.
They cause problems. Let's move on to the Broncos. I believe in Bo Nix. I really do. I've said that before. I think Denver will be pesky. They won 8 wins last season with Russell Wilson at quarterback. People forget that. I mean, they're gonna run an offense that has shades of those prime New Orleans teams, right? Obviously, Bo Nix is not Drew Brees. I'm not saying that, but it will have some shades of that. The defense is annoyingly decent. They always play hard. Alex Singleton is a punk, and he always kills us, and I hate it. Denver, they're pesky is the word I keep coming to. I think a healthy Javonte will be great in the run game. Pair him with Jaleel McLaughlin, be a great duo. The weapons around Knicks aren't awesome. That being said, I think he fits what Peyton wants to do perfectly. I think he's a good quarterback. I think people read too much into the idea of system quarterback at Oregon. I think Knicks is a good quarterback. Denver, I think, is a competitive 7-10 this season that will annoy the heck out of me.
Yeah, they're a franchise that's just well run. Outside of the Russell Wilson years, last few years, you can always kind of expect them to be, around 500 or better, and we've seen that. And I have no reason to believe any different this year.
God, you're laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you, Joe, because describing how you just described the entire Denver Broncos team was kind of like how announcers describe white people. Like we just got a scrappy, high motor, high football IQ, do all the right
Hunter
things.
Renfro.
Yeah, brings his lunch pail to work kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Gets the most out of his abilities.
Yeah.
Has a lot of heart.
Yeah, I mean, you don't seem to be too high on Denver, though, right?
No, I think they win 6 games.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're that good. I mean, Bo Nix could be solid. I don't disagree with that take. I just think that the rest of this roster is gross, I don't think that like they lost a couple guys, but I don't really think it matters. I don't think that they're great. I think that it's a pretty below average football team. They'll probably win a couple games that they shouldn't, but they will lose the rest of them. So
yeah, that's fair. I hope that's what happens, man. I mean, Denver's been like as good as the Chiefs have been for the past few years. It's like the Chargers have played them well. It doesn't matter how good we are. We're not going to ever blow Denver out. They're going to be there, and it's going to be a 3-point game, and it pisses me off just how
they are in like most games that they play are not going to be like more than 2-score games at the absolute most.
Yeah. So they're one of those like low key well run franchises that like they haven't been able to hit on quarterback since Manning. That being said, like they still hang around, and it's annoying. That's the best way to put it. But
100%.
Let's move on to the Raiders. I know the Raiders fans have a lot of optimism for their team this year. I do not share that at all, mainly because of their quarterback situation. I feel like they're trying to do what the Lions sort of did, like with the Dan Campbell stuff, like hard-nosed, aggressive, like on defense, run game. And they'll definitely be those things. It's just like their pass rush will be great. Like they got Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Kuntz is a good player, Max Crosby, he's elite. He's so good. I just don't think the Antonio Pierce experience will work out. I think Luke Getsy, the OC, he was with the Bears previously. That's just a huge L for them. Obviously, Gardner Minshew at quarterback, Aiden O'Connell there. Like they have players to throw the ball to, but that's the issue is who's throwing them the ball. I think it's the worst QB room in the division, one of the worst in football, in my opinion. I expect them to have another top 7, probably top 5 pick. But Tom Telesco is their GM, so I don't really think it'll matter. The defense, I expect them to probably win a few games by themselves. I think they're that good. But it'll be like a couple 17-14 games, and they'll struggle to put up points. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they are going to suck. I think that it's going to be a revolving door of AOC and Gardner Minshew, and it's going to be funny, but they're going to be so irrelevant. I hope that Brock Bowers is elite, though. Like, I hope that he's fun. Dude, I hope they use him as a running back, tight end, quarterback, slot receiver.
Yeah.
Maybe everything we thought Kyle Pitts would be.
Correct.
If preseason is any indication, like they moved him around a lot. So I'm really curious to know like how they work both him and Michael Mayer, who was a 2nd-round pick last season, in the offense. How much of that, how much 12 personnel do they run? So I mean,
got a feel for Michael Mayer though.
Dude, I do.
Tough.
Man. It sucks. Like he was a really good prospect, and then
he was
supplanted immediately by the best tight end prospect ever. Brutal.
Dude, that was so brutal. He was sick in college too.
Mm-hmm. No, he really was.
What are you gonna do? Notre Dame legend.
The Raiders this year remind me. Do you guys remember when Jeff Saturday was the head coach of the Colts?
Yeah. What a time.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel the Raiders season could go. I think Antonio Pierce is like one of the cases where it's like he's a great vibes guy in the locker room, and I know he knows football and he's been a long time coach, but at the same time, like, you have coaches that are vibes guys that really bring energy, but they're maybe not as great with the X's and O's. And I think that could really struggle as a head coach. Now, obviously, the Raiders did a lot of good things with him at the helm at the end of last season, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over a full 17-game season and not just a quick little burst to end the year. If I had to bet on it, I bet that it wouldn't go as well as people are hoping, especially like we said, I don't trust their quarterback situation, but it'll be intriguing, and I think they'll put up points, and I think it'll be an interesting dynamic to watch unfold over this season, but I wouldn't bet on them doing anything. Right off the top of my head, I'm saying 5.
Joe?
I would probably go 5. Would be my
number. My number was 6, so I guess I'm a Raiders fan.
The Raiders.
Yeah. It's just like I genuinely think they're trying to do what the Lions have done. But the issue is they don't have a good running back. They don't have the line to do it. And I mean, at least their defense is good. So I guess that's the saving grace for them.
I just hope they stay bad. Life is better when the Raiders suck.
I hate the Raiders so much. They make me so angry. Well, I got Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. That's my AFC West. Based off what you guys said, I think you'd have the same.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
Bottom two are interchangeable, but
take whoever you like at the bottom two. But yeah, I think the Chiefs win it. Chargers are a few games out, and then Broncos and Raiders seeing who's the lesser trash can ultimately.
They are in purgatory. This feels like one of the easier divisions to predict.
It is. Well, let's move on to one that is not so easy. The AFC South. This went in a hurry to one of the more fascinating divisions in football. 2 years ago, people thought they were the worst. Like, this division.
Well, they were 2 years ago.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, people thought they had no future as a division in general. Man, this is fun. Let's start with a hot one, man. Let's start with the Colts. Kyle, let's start with you. I want to know your Colts take here.
I think Joe, you picked me because you know that I'm not as high on the Colts as you are.
Correct.
I think that this is a fun team. I truly do. But I think that I think that they don't win 10 games like you think that they will. I think their ceiling is probably 9. I think that they're going to be a pretty average football team.
So you think they have the same ceiling as last season?
I think that they're just like, whatever. I do. I'm sorry. I think that Richardson is electric.
That's unbelievable to me.
I know what it is. But yeah, I think that they're just going to be mid. Like, maybe they do win 10 games, but they'll be 10-7. I think that it's going to be 9-8, 10-7, 8-9. Like, they're in that window of mid, and I think that Richardson could do some good things, but I don't think that they're there yet. It's just, I think that they're cool. Like, I think that they'll be a fun fantasy team, but I just don't think that they're going to win a bunch of games. That's my thought. I know Joe is super high on them. Joe, please disagree with me.
I think the Colts win 12 games. I think they have a tough schedule. That being said, 12 games feels entirely reasonable to me, man. I think I bought in at Shane Steichen. Like, from his time with the Chargers, he was the OC when Herbert was a rookie and did wonders there. Went over to the Eagles and took a guy that everybody thought was terrible and put him in top 5 quarterback conversations, which is insane. They went from like 9 wins to 14 wins in a season with Steichen behind the helm on offense. He's one of the best offensive minds in the game. Like, adding Anthony Richardson to this team that won 9 games last season with Gardner Minshew at the helm is insane. Like, Anthony Richardson is genuine. This is objective fact. Genuinely one of the most talented players to have ever played quarterback. If he can become what I think he become, that's pretty awesome. In terms of pure talent, he's up there. The line is elite. Jonathan Taylor's elite. I think Leatu Latu comes in immediately and just eats on defense. I think the defense has some holes on it for sure. But I think with the amount that the Colts will run the ball, the defense won't be on the field that much. I expect the defense to outperform a little bit because of how many fresh legs they'll have that consistently. Again, it's bold. I'm putting them down at 12 wins. I think they win this division. I think it'll be similar to the Cardinals with a little bit of a better defense. Can you keep up with this offense? I think they will score a ton of points. So that's how I feel about the Colts, man. I'm putting them at 1 personally. So again, it's a risky one, and I'm willing to admit that, but I believe in this team a lot.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of both of you. I don't think they're going to be probably as mid as Kyle thinks, but I still need to see Anthony Richardson stay healthy and do it for a full NFL season. And those are just two things that if he does do it, I am with Joe. They'll have a great offense. I trust Steichen. They'll have a really good season. But he has yet to do that, obviously, in the NFL. He had struggles with that in college. So I'm still waiting to see that. And if they don't, then I think they slip back down towards more where Kyle's at. So I personally don't have them winning the division, but I think they're right there, and they're going to be competing it with up till the last weekend of the season, pretty much.
Joe, if I may, I think that you mentioned it, but I think that there's one major difference between last year and this year. And I know you're like, yes, they won this many games with Gardner Minshew. I agree. I think that their schedule is way harder this year. I think I think that's objectively why I think that they're going to be around the same spot. I think they will improve, but I think because their schedule is harder, like they play. I looked at it earlier, but they play like the Packers, they play the Bills, they play the Jets, they play obviously the Texans twice. They play the Dolphins, I think, as well. So like, there's like good teams that they will play that they should lose those games. Like they just should lose those games. But
that's fair. That's the best argument that I have against them winning 12 games. To be honest, it's like the schedule's hard, and I get that. I am just genuine. Like, there is no reason to me that they should have won 9 games last season.
Oh, 100%.
And again, it's like the schedule I get is tough. I am placing the bet on the talent of Anthony Richardson and the mind of Shane Steichen. Again, like, I just see what he's done with Philadelphia. I see the offense that he put together last year with pieces that Zach Moss was insane those few games that he was playing. It's just it's hard for me to bet against that. The schedule's hard, but I'm going to believe
Here's why I think you might be right, though, is their last 5 games of the year in order: Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jags. They should win 4 out of those 5 games.
Yeah, that's least. A very good schedule to close.
Yeah. So I think that they'll start the year probably worse than you thought, Joe, but they should win 4 or 5 games out of those last 5.
Yeah. No, and they are. This take could catch fire and be terrible. You know, Richardson could not match what I think he can be. Again, I think he's about as talented as anybody we've ever seen at the position. If Steichen can harness that, which I think he can. Like, I think the preseason game was a great example of like what the offense can potentially be that first drive, and then it was really ugly. So I think they'll have some pretty low lows and a couple of their losses. But I just, it's so hard to bet against, man. I think. And I might be a year too early as well. That's something that I'm willing to admit is like, maybe I was a year too early, like the Josh Allen jump from bad to elite. Maybe I'm a year too early on that, but I'm not a coward, and I'm gonna put him at 12 this season. So
stand on business, man.
That's what I'm doing. Let's move on to the Houston Texans. They are the trendy pick to win this division. Beach, let's hear from you first, man. Houston.
Yeah, so this is my pick to win the division, and it all stands basically is that we've seen them do it. In terms of they've had NFL success together. I like bringing in Stephon Diggs as long as they can get him targets, which I don't think will be an issue. They brought in Joe Mixon. I really do like CJ Stroud as a quarterback in the NFL. He had a great rookie year. I expect him to follow that up with a really good sophomore campaign, even if there might be just a little bit of natural regression from his insane rookie year. They've got all the talent that you could need. They've got good pieces on defense. I really liked what they did coaching-wise last year. So, yeah, they're my pick. It's probably more of a safer pick, I think, than picking one of the Colts or the Jaguars, something like that. But I really do think they just have an abundance of talent at a lot of good positions, and I think C.J. Stroud is going to continue his ascent into the top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree with Beach. This is also my pick to win this division. I think they win 10-plus games as their floor. I think they're going to win 10 games this year. I just think it's as simple as they just have a better roster. Like they added a couple of good pieces. I think they had a good draft. And I think CJ Stroud's, like, if we look at the Texans and the Colts side by side, we see 2 young, potentially great QBs. I think CJ Stroud's play style is one that's going to be much safer to bet on.
Yes. Especially, like, I was just thinking, like, turnovers, right? Like, Anthony Richardson can sometimes have the turnover issues, and we've seen that in the preseason. Whereas CJ Stroud, I mean, I don't know, it felt like forever until he threw his first few picks last year. And he was just, he had one of the, great seasons. So I'm with you, Kyle.
Yeah. I think that this team will be, I don't think it's going to be like I have seen some people picking them to like be in the AFC Championship this year. And I don't think that that's real, but I do think that they're going to continue to go up and to the right. I think this team will be better than they were last year, but Joe, go ahead.
Yeah. I think this will be a good team. That's about the extent of it. I don't see the path for them to be great quite yet. I don't like Mixon at all. I think getting Mixon signed to an extension, I think it was a terrible move. Mixon is not a good running back. Devin Singletary fit that team better. You could have got him for the fraction of the price as well. I don't love the Diggs addition either. I think they were better off with just Collins and Tank and Dalton Schultz. I don't think Diggs really fits into this offense. I think they have him in the slot. From what I saw from Diggs the back half of last season, I think he's lost a step. I think rolling in with a Noah Brown or maybe even like a Tyler Boyd would have been a better addition onto this team, to be honest, in the slot. They didn't add anything that wowed me, man. I think Stroud will be good again. I think obviously his interception turnover rate, which was insane last season, which will regress back to normal a little bit. The line has some gigantic question marks. The front seven will be really good. Obviously swapping out Jonathan Greener for Danielle Hunter. It's a decent upgrade, but Hunter put up 12.5 sacks, or Greener put up 12.5 sacks last season, so it's not like he's bad. I see the secondary having some question marks behind Derek Stingley. Maybe Jalen Petre can come up and have a good season, but I think like the Colts, honestly, the whole South, all their schedules are brutal. I see them again as a good team. And the reason I'm putting them below is because I think that the Colts just have a higher ceiling, and I'm willing to bet on that ceiling. I don't really think that the Texans like dominated last season. I'll put them probably around 9-8, 10-7 like last season, second, squeaking into the playoffs. I don't see them taking that next step this season like everybody predicts them, personally. So, still a good team. So, that being said, I could also see them, because of the next team we'll talk about in a minute, I could see them finishing third in this division and out of it. And that's the Jags. This team fascinates me, man. Their defense will be super good. That front seven is insane. They added Eric Armstead into it. Their secondary, I like what they got going on. The defense should be top 10. The line is still shaky. That's what concerns me the most. Trevor Lawrence is great. He got beat up, but I love the addition of Brian Thomas into this offense. Gabe Davis as that sacrificial X, just running down the field and letting Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk work in the middle of the field into short to intermediate. Travis Etienne's a good running back. I could see this team bumping out the Texans for the two. Honestly, the Colts too. Like either of these three teams, it is hard for me to figure out who exactly is going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm betting on the Colts. I think the Jags finish under the Texans. This team could be elite, though, for sure.
I think the AFC South, it kind of feels like all these teams are very evenly matched. All have their own question marks. All have young quarterbacks that have played well. And you're just kind of trying to see, all right, which one has the better season? Like, that's kind of what this feels like. It doesn't feel like it feels like you could pick any one of them to win the division, and you could make a legitimate case for them. I think my 100%. Thing with the Jaguars, why I'm not as high on them as, the two previous teams that we were talking about, I still have a little bit more questions about their offense with Trevor Lawrence. I do like their receivers and obviously Evan Ingram and Etienne. I think they've got good weapons, but Trevor Lawrence, he's been beat up again. Like Joe mentioned, that line is a question mark again. And if he keeps getting hurt or keeps having health issues, then obviously we're right back to square one. So that's my reason for putting them at 3 is I just don't think Trevor Lawrence has stayed healthy, and he's also had turnover issues in the past as well. So that's why I'm sliding them down a little bit, but they're going to be right there with it too.
Yeah, the Jags are one of the teams that I think that they have the widest range of outcomes. Like, honestly, I I feel like this is probably like put up or shut up year for the whole Doug Peterson experiment. Like they've gone 9-8 the last 2 years.
Yeah.
If they go 9-8 again, or like somewhere in that range, and they make the wild card and then don't do anything, it's like, do we continue to do this? Like if you're the organization, I feel like the Jags feel like they're in a slightly better position. Not slightly. They're a better version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think.
I have a question. How
Sure.
different would we look at the Jags and maybe look at Trevor Lawrence as well? Do they not have that dramatic comeback against the Chargers 2 years ago?
I think that the coaching staff is different. I think that people get fired if they lose that game,
That's kind of where I'm at too. It's like that game and that comeback, not that I think they would have gotten fired, but then the next year doing the same thing. They missed the playoffs last year, if I'm remembering correctly.
They did. They started 8-3.
So now all of a sudden you would have been looking at it. 1 year you have a playoff loss, and then the next year you miss the playoffs. Like, just like Kyle said, like theoretically they could really have lost their jobs by now had that playoff game not ended the way it did for them in that dramatic comeback where the Chargers just completely choked it away. But since they haven't, they still have their jobs. They've got a chance to go into this season. Just like Kyle said, it is put up or shut up time for the Jaguars. If they have another just middling season, I agree with Kyle. I think heads are going to start to roll.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they should. I don't know if they agree.
I mean, another name that I love, if they have a season that's a losing season or, again, a midseason or miss the playoffs, I think they should fire Peterson and make the hardest possible run they could for Ben Johnson. It's an offensive league. Again, this defense is already great.
Johnson.
Think about that though. This dude knows offense. Like he's already been a coveted guy. Think about what this offense could do with actual like real play calling, right? And a talent like Lawrence and the talent they have everywhere else, things like that. So I think that's what they're missing. That's what I think the Jags are the most talented team in this division.
Wow.
When it's all put on paper, I think they have the best roster up and down. I just have some serious questions. Again, over that line, they dressed it this year, but I don't know how it's going to turn out. And then, it's like, can you show me something to where I can comfortably put you up to the point of overtaking the Texans and the Colts? So, yeah, man. I mean, either of those three teams, though, to me, could win the division.
Yeah.
And if they put it all together. And, I mean, I don't think this fourth team can win the division. Let's move on to the Titans. I don't think they can win the division, but they're not bad. The Titans, I think, are fourth by default, in my opinion. I think they're tough to predict. I see the vision, right? They got a young quarterback who's got a cannon of an arm. I do believe in the Levis talent. I love the Calvin Ridley addition to them. I'm fascinated to see how Brian Callahan comes in and calls plays. Like he's been with the Bengals the past couple of years. I think they upgraded the line significantly. I think it was one of the worst last season. I think they did some really good things there. Pollard and Spears duo, I think that it's a really good mix and match there for the team, the versatility. They surrounded Levis with the pieces to succeed, which I think is a really interesting way because it's like they've got contracts that they can get out of within a year or two. They got a young quarterback where it's like, hey, let's find out if Levis is the guy. If so, we're good. If not, we move on, and we tank. So the defense, like Tavondre Sweat, Darius Sneed, I think this team is a fun future. Isn't in the place yet to compete for the division, but they'll steal a couple from their divisional counterparts for sure.
Yeah, I agree. They're fourth by default, but they could surprise people and have a much better season than people are thinking. That kind of all depends on how good Will Levis succeeds at the NFL level. They've got the weapons around there. He's got a better line now in front of him, a new coach calling plays, although I'm still puzzled why they got rid of Vrabel. But regardless of that, Vrabel's gone. Just like you said, Brian Callahan's in. So we'll see how he does calling plays, and maybe it could be something that all of a sudden they catch fire and then they're having a better season than people thought. I still don't think they're going to catch the three previous teams in front of them just because I don't think the quarterback play will be there as consistently as the other three, but they could be a really fun team that gives a challenge to anybody they play week in and week out.
100%. This division is almost like it's just the anti-NFC South where it's like all three teams have really interesting paths, a ton of talent, And like realistically, there's a world where you could see the path to all three doing some damage and winning double-digit games. And it's like, I don't know who I'm going to pick because they're all good teams. But
yeah. It kind of feels like the NFC West when like the Niners, Seahawks, and Rams were all just like right around that same area where it's like, yeah, either one of those teams could win. And then you had the Cardinals, who were a scrappy team that, was competitive week in and week out.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how this division feels to me, is that all these teams, similar talent levels. It really just depends on, who is more consistent throughout a 17-game season.
Yeah. Kyle, you got any Titans thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you guys for the most part. I think that Will Levis is definitely the weakest quarterback in this division by a significant amount. And I don't know. I wasn't really sold on him last year. Like, he didn't look great, but he didn't look terrible. So I think that we're going to see pretty quickly if he's progressed. Yeah. And I don't think that he will. I think that they win 6 games. I think they win 6 games probably, like, just looking at their schedule while you guys are talking, I think that they're right around 6.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I feel like I don't remember the last time we saw a team that did this, where it's like, we have a young quarterback who's got good talent. His arm is great. Let's just surround him with some like good veteran presences to see if he's got it. And if not, we just get out of the contracts in a year and we draft a new quarterback. Like, I don't remember the last time we saw something like that. So I got Colts, Texans, Jags, Titans. This is probably, I mean, I am Mr. Stats. This is probably the only division where I will just base it off of the vibes that I get from the Colts. So very, very off brand for me. Again, it was tough for me not to put the Jags over the Texans, but I will go with the CJ Stroud hype there. What order are you guys in?
I think I just flip your top 2. I think it's Texans, Colts, Jags, Titans for me.
That's fair. Yeah, I would agree as well.
All right. Cool. Let's move on to the AFC East. Let's kick off with the Bills. Last year's division winner started off a little slow, but then came on at the end and took over the Dolphins to take that division. What do you guys think about the Bills?
I think that this is the most fun division in the AFC, personally. I think that there's a lot of excitement. I still have the Bills winning this, but I think that it'll be by like a game, honestly. I mean, nothing really to note. Diggs left, but I don't think that they're going to miss him a ton, honestly. Like, he really took a step back that back half of the season. And it felt like he was almost a detriment to the team.
Yeah.
So
he was literally irrelevant.
Yeah, like he was.
And he was like, you don't want a guy that's not going to perform and then just be a diva, like classic wide receiver syndrome. But
I think there was that pass that he dropped in that playoff game that just bombed that right in the basket. He couldn't get it in.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Who was that against?
Yeah, I did too.
I think the Chiefs. Was that not against Kansas City?
I thought it was.
I'm pretty sure it was it was against, because they lost to Kansas City in the playoffs, and it's like, it was a really good game. There was that game. That was the one that Allen missed that touchdown pass because he had a defender in his leg, so he couldn't step into it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think. I guess you guys will talk about it, but me personally, I think the question that I've heard a lot is like, are the Bills going to make the jump? Are they finally going to beat the Chiefs? I don't think so. I do not. I think that Josh Allen is just, unfortunately, an elite quarterback in the AFC at the same time as Patrick Mahomes, and there's not really much you can say besides that. But I like
ready to learn Phillip Rivers, buddy.
Exactly, he's sexy Phillip Rivers. Like, he just is Phillip Rivers, but can run. But I think I really like the moves that they made in the offseason. I think that they're going to be good. I'd say they probably win 11 games, 12 games.
Yeah, I like that. Beach.
I'm not as high on the Bills as it sounds like Kyle is. I don't think Stephon Diggs is as big of a loss, but I really don't love their playmakers that are there now. I think Josh Allen's incredible, and I think he will continue to be incredible. But I don't love the rest of them. I think their defense will be decent, not anything great. Kind of what has been their downfall a lot of the years. And I don't think they're going to be as good as they have been in the past. Now, I'm not saying they won't still be a good football team, but I don't think they're going to be even close to the level that the Kansas City Chiefs are this year. I'm not putting them in that realm, at least not yet. I'd have to see it first, but I trust Josh Allen. I don't really trust anything else outside of him right now. And if I had to pick, I think they win around 10 to 11 games, and that might be good enough to win the division, but I'm not going to pick them to win the division.
Yeah.
Beach is just absolutely sleeping on Boise State legend Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, I might be sleeping on him, but we shall see.
Yeah. I don't think the Bills really take a step forward. I don't really think they take a step back, though, either. Like, I think they had some big contracts come off on the defense, and that's what stops me really from, I think, putting them at the top teams. I think some of the additions they had will be really interesting. Again, I think the expectation is that they're going to drop off significantly on offense. I don't see that. Like, if you have an elite quarterback, you have an elite quarterback. If there is any drop off, it won't be that crazy. Like, they still have a good staple of pass catchers. I mean, Keon Coleman, he's a physical freak, and if they use him in a good way, he can do some damage. You know, Curtis Samuel is a solid player. I think Khalil Shakir, eat in the middle. Dalton Kincaid's good. James Cook is good. Ray Davis is good. The line's still solid. Matt Milano tearing his bicep, that does concern me. So I probably same thing. I'd probably put him at 11 would be my guess. So still a great team. Not super exciting just because of the lack of star power behind Josh Allen. Yeah, they'll still be good because Allen is great.
Exactly.
So, Dolphins, Miami Dolphins. Let's hear what you guys have to say about these fellas.
This is my pick to win the AFC East this year. I don't love Tua, but I think Tua is a quarterback that you could win in the regular season with. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to be like that Sean McVay type of coach where he's just very good at getting guys schemed open and makes it easy for his, quarterback to just make easy throws, make his life easy. And I love their run game with Achane and with Mostert. So you still have Tyreek Hill that's, been an elite level receiver for all these years. You've got the good run game. I think Tua, as long as he is healthy, will make enough plays to win enough regular season games. And then I like what they're doing on defense too. They still got a lot of good talent on that side of the ball. So I think they can win 12 to 13 games and then get above Buffalo. So a little bit of a hot take there, but I just trust McDaniel and what he can do with that team.
I respect the take, Beach. I like it. Not enough to agree with you, but I like it. I think that they're going to miss Christian Wilkins. That was sad.
Yeah.
I love Christian Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
They did get a washed-up Shaq Barrett, and they did get Jordan Poyer.
I think Barrett retired.
Did he retire?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Shaq Barrett retired.
No way.
That's hilarious. Where did Christian Wilkins go? I'm spacing on that. That's right.
Yeah, which sucks for him.
I remember I wanted Christian Wilkins.
He retired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't know that. Okay, well then, what I was saying kind of remains the same. I was just like, I was like, I don't think he's really going to be that big of a difference maker. And it turns out he will have no difference of anything made.
He will not make any difference.
Yes. Maybe to the cap space. But I think that they're going to be fun. They're going to be one of the more fun offenses. I think that pretty much exactly what Beach said is the reason why they will win 10 games and finish second in this division. But yeah, like they have a great coach. They have a great scheme. Tua's going to be a regular season merchant like he does if he's healthy.
Yep.
And I think that's just it. That like I don't think that they do any damage in the playoffs personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think this team is built for fantasy football. I think that's what they're built for. I think the offense will still put up a ton of points. I think it's really interesting to hear, just even the past couple of years, just how Tua views, or McDaniel views Tua. Like he's a great play caller. I do think that he holds him back though. Like as much as you can believe in Tua, like ultimately he's a physically limited quarterback, and what you can do, he accomplishes what you want. I think I shared with you guys recently, like I have softened towards your typical system quarterbacks because I think there's a value of listening, which is super key. I think Tua does that great. I think Tua fits this offense in a really great way. But again, like when you go up against the top guys late in the season, he just doesn't have that.
I'm going to make a comparison if I can.
Let's hear it.
Oh no.
This team reminds me of the mid 2010 Atlanta Hawks.
Oh my gosh.
Why is that?
What a comp.
I think they can have a great regular season. They can win a bunch of games when things are scripted, when the weather's nice, when things are great, right? As soon as they go to that first round of the playoffs or whatever, right? And it could be you're playing Buffalo, let's say, Josh Allen, or you're playing Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, or you're playing a CJ Stroud, or you're playing possibly an Anthony Richardson. Any one of those quarterbacks that can be an elite level difference maker, I think this team's going to struggle because Tua, we have seen, he can make plays when everything's scripted out and it's an easy, on script timing play. As soon as he has to do anything that's outside of that, that's where he's going to struggle. And what do we see in the playoffs? That's what a lot of the playoffs is just teams being able to adjust and being able to do things on the fly and being able to ad-lib. And Tua's that's not his style. And it's going to win a lot of games in the regular season. Like I said, I think it can win them the division even, but it's not going to be enough when they come up against an elite superstar on the other side of the field. Same way the Atlanta Hawks were great in the regular season. They could put together a bunch of wins. As soon as you play LeBron James in the playoffs, that's where things get rough.
Beach said, explain this in NBA terms. I love it.
Yeah. No, Beach, I'm in agreement there. And you guys have heard me say it before. It's like, as much as scheme is awesome, and I love scheme, this is part of the reason, the 49ers, I don't think have won a Super Bowl, is because you could always be out-schemed. You cannot be out-superheroed unless you have a superhero on your own team.
Yep.
And as much crap as Staley gets, Staley set the blueprint in 2022 against the Dolphins on how you beat them. And you take away the middle of the field, you take away these spots, and they have Tyreek, they have Waddle, they can run along the sidelines. I'm gonna let Tua take those shots down the field, and I'm gonna force him to use his arm, which he ultimately will not be able to do more often than not. So that being said, for the team, I think the defense has some huge holes in the front seven. Christian Wilkins losing him is a problem. They have no pass rush, man. Like Jalen Phillips is still coming out that Achilles tear.
Shaq Barrett.
They drafted Chop Robinson, who's talented, but he's a project, right?
I do like Chop Robinson.
So I don't think they have a pass rush. Their defensive backs are so good. But the problem is, it doesn't matter how good your defensive backs are if you can't rush the quarterback.
Yes.
I think they're going to have some super fun, some super explosive moments. But let me read you the last 6 games of the Dolphins season.
Ooh.
At Green Bay versus the Jets. At Houston versus San Francisco. At Cleveland. At the Jets.
Ooh. I'm not a fan of those.
0-6.
They could.
Right.
I don't think they will, though. I think you're probably looking.
They for sure. I mean, they might not.
I think they beat the Jets.
Yeah, they could go 2-4 or something like that. But I don't see them coming out of those final 6 with the winning record. So
certainly not.
Yeah, that's tough. I struggle to see how they come out any higher than 9-8, personally. Let's move on to the Jets, though.
Can I do a live interruption?
Let's hear it.
Is Florida State cooked?
Are they down?
There's no way that they're losing.
They're down 14-0 to Boston College, and it's the second quarter.
Dude, they're cooked.
My gosh.
I'm going to look at
made that team.
DJ Uyunglele is 2 of 7 for 5 yards.
Oh, dude. He should have
Boston College money line is only minus 150.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, let's talk about the Jets, because this is who I have winning the division.
Wow.
I think,
okay.
Yeah, you're a psycho.
I will explain this.
Wow. We
all
all have different division winners. This is great.
I talked about how I have the Colts winning because of the vibes. I have the Jets winning because I think they are elite. I think we are in store for some big things in New York. I see them in contention for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Again, I have the Chiefs winning 14 games. I have the Jets probably at 13.
Wow.
I think their offensive line was abysmal last season. They made some additions that I think they are 7 deep, and it puts them in the top 5 of the league. Breece Hall is the best running back in football. I stand on that take. They won 7 games last season at 15 points per game. They scored 15 points per game. Rodgers doesn't even need to be great for this team to be great. I think this defense is still elite. They are so deep. I think even without Hassan Reddick, if he plays or not, they'll still be great. They added Javon Kinlaw. They added Chuck
Arizona
Clark.
Hassan Reddick.
Maybe Reddick plays, right? The depth of the skill positions is a little concerning, right? But again, Braylon Allen's there if Breece Hall goes down. Behind Garrett Wilson is a little rough, right? They got Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson, things like that. I believe in this team, though. I think they win 13 games. I don't know how they'll fare in the playoffs, but for the regular season, I am about as high as you could possibly be on the Jets. I have them winning this division.
Wow, I don't hate the take. I do disagree, but I don't hate it, Joe. And I know we've been going through everything schedule based, and I am fully in belief that the NFL has rigged their schedule. But that being said, I think that they're going to start the year hot, kind of get warm, but they end the season on a brutal stretch. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we will find out what they're made of their last 5 or 6 games, maybe even 7. Their last 7 games in order are the Colts, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Rams, the Bills, the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's tough.
So that 7-game stretch, looking at that, I would be happy if I'm them winning 3 out of those 7 games, I think. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers is obviously not going to be, maybe it's not obvious to Joe, but I don't think he's going to be the Aaron Rodgers of old. I think that he'll just be above average as his ceiling, But
I have a question.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers' last healthy season, 2022, he put up 3,600 yards, completed 65% of his passes, through 26 touchdowns. Where do you think that gets the Jets with this defense? They had Zach Wilson last year.
If we copy and paste them, from 2022?
Copy paste that into the Jets.
Oh, dude, I think they win 13 games if you copy and paste them.
I think that's reasonable. I think if Aaron Rodgers throws 22 touchdown passes, Breece Hall is going to be insane. I think this team, we're in for a big regular season from this team, man.
Yeah, I said earlier that the Jags have one of the biggest range of outcomes. I think the Jets have the singular widest range of I would not be surprised if this team crashed and burned and won 6 games. Genuinely, I would not.
Aaron Rodgers is on a retreat halfway through the season.
Yeah, he's doing shrooms on the sideline. This team is a circus, but they are one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, if not the most talented roster in the NFL. It's incredible. But I'm not bullish on it. I think that they they win 9 games, honestly. So that might be a hot take by me, but I think that I genuinely think that they finish 3rd in this division. So we'll see.
That's fair. This is just for me, it's the bet on last year, again, the defense, which was top 3 in the league. All right, they had a rough end of the season, but I think that's just because they were on the field so much, man.
Totally, yeah.
Through the last few games, they gave up 30 points, 37, and 17. But before that, they gave up, it was 16. They gave up 30 to Dallas early, but then it was 15, 23. Dude, they don't give up points, man. So I think if you input an average Aaron Rodgers there, you just see an insane bump in production personally. So, and again, I'm looking at this defense right now. It's DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, they got Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley, they got Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams, Javon Kinlaw. If you add, you got Chuck Clark, if you were to add a guy like Hassan Reddick onto this team, I just do thought the defense
who is technically on the team. Yeah.
Yeah. But if he plays, right. Again, I think the offensive line is upgraded unbelievably. I think Breece Hall puts up close to 2,000 total yards. I think this offense
will start 4-0. They will start 4-0. That is a fact. Yeah. The NFL has given them a cupcake first month, and I'm excited about it. Honestly, I respect the NFL for doing that.
Yeah. Beach, let's hear your thoughts on the Jets.
Yeah, I'm high on the Jets as well. I think them and the Dolphins are going to finish 1-2, and I'm not high on Buffalo this year.
That's crazy.
It is. I'm high on Josh Allen. I'm not high on the rest of their team. I think the only reason I'm not picking them to win the division is because of just like Kyle said, the wide range of outcomes. I don't necessarily trust them to put it all together, especially with that back half of the schedule. in the regular season, but this is certainly a team that will push for double-digit wins. And I think if you saw them in the playoffs, I would not want to face them.
Yeah, definitely not.
Just like you said, Joe, if Aaron Rodgers comes back from his Achilles tear and he is 75% of what he was in Green Bay at the end there, then I think we're celebrating, right?
Yeah.
If you're a Jets fan. So that's where I'm at with them. I think they're going to finish second. I think they're going to have a really good regular season. And then I think as the year goes on, they're going to start getting better and better. I just can't pick them to win the division just because there's so many different variables that are coming and going.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough.
That's super fair. Let's move on to the Patriots, the consensus fourth.
Do we have to?
We do, because we got to talk about Drake May, right?
All right, Drake May is in the NFL. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen.
This team
4 wins. See you guys next year.
If they reach 4 wins. They might be worse than that. That being said, Drake May, I think, is the truth, and we'll show that. But this
I hope he doesn't play this year, though.
This team is terrible, dude. That's all we got to say about them.
Please keep Drake May healthy.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to know how they recover from the Belichick way and like the mess that he created there at the end. But Drake May is him; he will be great. Let's move on to the AFC North. This is a super strong division. Let's cover the Ravens. I'll kick us off. I mean, this team I think had a surprising amount of departures that were key contributors. Obviously, Mike McDonald at the forefront, Patrick Queen, Morgan Moses on the line, Kevin Zeitler on the line, Clowney, Dobbins, Geno Stone. I don't think it matters. Last year, I think, was statistically a historically great team. I think they were, in terms of like, I forget what the stat was, but they were like a top 5-10 team of all time by the metrics. That defense is still loaded, man. They are insane. They won't skip much of a beat there. Adding players in the draft and free agency. Derrick Henry, that addition, I think him and Lamar is going to be so much fun. Flowers, Andrews, I'm going to put Likely in there. I think that is a sick trio that causes some crazy mismatches. Lamar is elite run game, elite defense, not a lot will change. I don't think they'll be as dominant as they were last year, but I still see them in the running for the potential number 1 seed.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
They're my pick to win this division. So I agree with you, Joe.
Yeah.
I think last year's team was objectively better than what they're going to do this year. Like by a pretty much, I think, unanimous margin. Like, I don't think anybody will say otherwise. I think them losing 3 starters on the O-line will hurt them.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, sure. Like that's a big deal. You know, like it's a huge deal. I think the Derrick Henry addition is honestly whatever, if I'm being honest. Like, I think that Gus Edwards was totally serviceable in this offense last year, and Derrick Henry's just like I would say he's a slight upgrade, honestly, at this point in his career. So, I think that the Ravens are still elite. I think Lamar is elite. I think he's the best QB in the division. I honestly think that this division is the best in football, honestly. I think every single team in this division has a chance at 10 wins. Yeah. And I don't think that that's crazy for anybody to say. I think that these teams' win totals will be lower because they're going to have to play each other so many times. But I think that the Ravens are a top 3 team in football. So I would put them at the top of the division, and I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick today, I'd pick the Ravens to win the division. I kind of have them as a coin flip with the Bengals because I do like what Cincinnati has over there as well, and they've proven that they can do it. Lamar's Lamar. I do like Derrick Henry still. I think he can have a really good year. The biggest question, like we mentioned, offensive line. But at the end of the day, they've got a great coach in John Harbaugh. They've got Lamar. I think they're set up for success again. Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt us real quick. We talked about first place. It just dawned on me. I think we all had a different order for the AFC East. I had Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. Beat you at Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Patriots. Kyle, what'd you have?
Yes.
I have Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots.
Okay. Yeah, so we all have different ones. It hit me that we didn't actually talk about
we all had different division winners, which would mention
that'll
different
make the order
orders.
Slightly different.
Yeah, that's fun. That'll be one to keep an eye on then for us.
It will be.
Anyway, back to the North. The Ravens are elite. I think, again, the line concerns me a little bit. It definitely is devoid of some of the talent they had last year. But I mean, like that coaching staff has just, and that front office has just been able to churn great players in and out every single year. So ultimately, it's one of those things of like, I will doubt them when they show me they're worth being doubted. So let's go into the Browns next. Another defensive team that will just, the defense will be a problem again. Like this, they'll be elite once again, all over the squad. Talent. They added a few pieces to it as well. I think the biggest question with this team that everybody has is the quarterback, right? The pass catchers are good.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford is solid. When Chubb comes back, that's a good 1-2 punch, right? Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. As much as those last two are memes, David Njoku's there. As much as those last two receivers are memes, it's like that's a good trio, Ken Dorsey, he was with Buffalo the past few years, has done some good work there. I'm fascinated by this roster. I think Watson will be put into a place to succeed enough to where I see this team probably winning 11 games. I'm going to bet on the Browns. It's not necessarily a bet on Watson. I want to make that clear. It's a bet on this defense that did win 11 games last year with Joe Flacco. I think it will be put on a team, put in a spot where he can probably throw 3,600 yards, 20 touchdowns. You probably have a couple hundred on the ground, throw 12 picks. And if that doesn't happen, they got Jameis waiting in the wings. So, I had a lot of trouble between them and the Bengals. I'm going to go with the defense and the team that showed it to me last season, though.
Joe, I thank you for your politically correct endorsement of the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, thank you.
Let's see what you got to say then.
Yes, I think that the Browns are a good football team. I hope that Deshaun Watson has a horrible year.
Yeah,
I do.
That's fair.
Because I do not like that, and there is no other reason outside of that.
Yeah.
I think that he was bad last year, and I was viewing him through tainted lenses where I just don't like him as an individual. So that was hard for me to do.
Yeah.
But from a strictly football perspective, I think that this year, if he doesn't have a pretty serious bounce back year, that Browns trade could be one of the worst in NFL history.
For sure.
We could be looking at that trade in 10 years and be like, I cannot believe that the Texans got everything that they got and the Browns received Deshaun Watson's completely guaranteed contract. So
that was the Browns that signed him to that. I think the contract was worse than the trade. Because that's what they gave.
100%.
They came in. It's like the trade. It's like, okay, you can stomach that, but the guaranteed contract, man.
Oh. I guess I say the transaction. I think that transaction was just one of the worst business deals in NFL history if things continue.
Yeah.
But I think that this team wins 9 games. I do.
That's totally fair.
Their defense is nuts. Their skill position players are great. And I think Nick Chubb is a shoo-in for the comeback player of the year. Shout out to DeMar Hamlin. I think that this roster it's weird saying that the Browns have a very good football team, but their football team is good. So go Browns, go win 9 games.
Yeah, dude.
My whole reason that I'm not as high on them is simply because everything off the field aside, Deshaun Watson last year was bad on the field and he was hurt. And I don't necessarily think either one of those things could change. Obviously health is something you can never predict, but I don't think he was that good on the field, and I'm not really banking on that changing again. I think sometimes when you've had that many off-the-field distractions that are still following you, and you've got the pressure to live up with a fan base like that is dying for any little sliver of success, it can make a guy crumble. And I'm really not sure how Deshaun Watson's going to continue to handle all of this. So that's the only reason I'm not high on him.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, would you put them at more wins or the same wins with Jameis starting the majority of the season?
I'd put them probably similar to maybe a little less, just because I think Jameis Winston will turn the football over a bunch.
Yeah. Would it change the fact that Joe Flacco turned it over a ton last season? I'm just curious to know where you guys stand with things like that.
That is true.
Flacco started 5 games. He threw 13 touchdowns, 60% completion. He averaged 323 a game, and he threw 8 picks.
Yeah, that's a lot of picks. Yeah, I think Jameis could do the same thing, and they could have a similar ceiling, or not ceiling, excuse me. They could have a similar floor. I just don't think they'd have a higher ceiling, but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think.
Go for it, Kyle.
Oh, I was just going to answer your question.
Yeah.
I think that Jameis would make this football team better, which is a crazy take.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, I know it's a nuts take. I think I'm blinded by my Deshaun Watson hatred, but I want Jameis Winston to be good so bad that I just think that he would be better. But I'm sure that I am objectively wrong. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, let me read their schedule to you. It's really interesting. They start versus Dallas. They go to Jacksonville, Giants. Then they have a stretch where they go to Vegas, at Washington, at Philly. They come home against Cincinnati, Baltimore, Chargers. They go to New Orleans again and against Pittsburgh, Denver, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Miami, Baltimore. That's a tough finish, but the first 12 games or so is really interesting. And if they get hot enough, and I'm really curious to know how long Watson actually plays, and if James comes in, this team really is interesting to me. Again, that defense, I'm gonna bet on that. I didn't see a lot of turnover from last season. They'll be interesting for sure.
I feel great about my 9-win prediction.
Yeah, that's fair. Anything else on the Browns?
No.
All right, well, let's move on to the Bengals. Beach, you mentioned them earlier. I'll start with you.
Yeah. I'm banking, like with Deshaun Watson, I'm banking on the opposite with Joe Burrow, that he comes back. Obviously, health is a major factor, and that the Bengals return more to their Super Bowl appearance form, especially on the offensive end. I think their question marks, obviously, the big one is Jamar Chase and his contract situation.
Yeah.
What's going to happen there? Again, was not at practice today, and we are 6 days away from opening kickoff. Is that something that lingers throughout the whole year? If he's missing games because of that, obviously that significantly impacts my view on how good they can be. But assuming that they get that handled, because I think they have every intention of trying to get that handled, I think they'll finish second. They'll have a really good year. There's question marks, but I trust Joe Burrow, and I trust what they've done over there more than I would say the Cleveland Browns. So that's why they're getting second. I could see them, again, right around 10 wins, maybe one or two more, depending on how things break.
Kyle?
I think that the Bengals and the Ravens win the same amount of games, and I think that the Ravens have the tiebreaker. That is my prediction. I think that Joe Burrow, when healthy, is an MVP level quarterback, and I think people kind of forgot about that last year. He is elite. I think that T. Higgins should also be back and healthy and on a contract year, so he's going to want to perform. So, I think that this Bengals team is incredibly talented. They signed Trent Brown. I think that they're going to be just a little bit better in most areas than they were last year. And I honestly really love the move of moving on from Joe Mixon and having a little bit more of a committee. I think that they'll probably benefit from that. I think that they win 11 games. I think that the Ravens win 11 games, but I think that the Ravens beat them.
Yeah, that's fair. I struggled between them and Cleveland, man, because they're polar opposites. I think this offense is going to be insane. I think Burrow leads the league in passing yards, with or without Jamar. Like you said, I love moving on from Mixon, Zach Moss, short deal, Chase Brown. That just gives a really good punch at 1-2. Some thunder lightning stuff. But I think the defense took some huge hits. The pass rush I think will be good, but losing DJ Reader is a big deal, especially for stopping the run. The line got some good upgrades. I still think there's some holes there. But even behind T. Higgins, like Andre Yosavas, he's a good pass catcher. Jermaine Burton's a fun rookie.
He should be good.
They got Mike Gesicki, Eric All. That'll be interesting to see how that works at tight end. I think the defense is going to need some Lou and Aruma magic on the DC to finish better than 10 wins. Not something I think I'm necessarily willing to bet against. He's a good D coordinator. I think if you asked me a week ago, I would have said they're going to be a dogfight with Houston and Jacksonville for the final playoff spot. I think they match the same amount of wins that the Browns have, which I think will be 11, and I'm bumping the Steelers down, which we get to in a minute. But yeah, like I see the path for Cincinnati to be elite again. I struggle to put them there just because of what I see on their defense, though.
Yeah.
But Burrowback's. I mean, that'll be great. So
yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah, for sure. So
big difference.
Definitely. Let's move on to Pittsburgh. Like I said, I don't get how this team won 10 games last year with Pickett at the helm, dude. It's the Mike Tomlin voodoo magic. The crazy part is they improved across the board this year, like especially at quarterback. Like no matter how bad Fields and Wilson are, like it's better than Kenny Pickett. The interior offensive line is going to maul people. The rush attack with Najee and Warren is going to be insane. There's questions at tackle for sure. Pickens is solid. I love Roman Wilson. The Pratt Freiermuth is great. Defense plugs.
Isn't Roman Wilson out for a while?
I know he was dealing with some ankle stuff. I don't know where he's at right now. But I mean, Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen on defense is great. Already paired with a very good defense there. Unfortunately, I just think their cap is 9 wins. I think quarterback is just that big of a problem with this team, and they haven't been able to figure it out since Big Ben. I'm going to say that this is the year. I know a couple weeks ago when we recorded the NFC, I think I said that
Don't say it.
They would finish everyone over 500. I'm going to say this is when it ends.
No.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say this is when they finish 8-9. Again, I'm giving an extra win that I had in last year to Cincinnati, and I'm going to put it under. I'm going to go with the under with Pittsburgh. I mean, they're going to beat some teams that they shouldn't beat. They're going to lose some games they shouldn't lose. When they win, it'll be ugly. Like the crazy part is this team will be a Super Bowl contender with a good quarterback. It's like the Jets to me. Like there's just like if they had Rodgers, I might have them win the division. So, but what do you guys think about the Steelers?
I don't think that they're going to have a losing record. I think that someone somewhere sold their soul for the Steelers to never have a losing record. They'll go 8-1 before that happens. They would go 0-0.
That would be funny.
That would be.
They'd go 0-0-17 before they have a losing season. I don't think that they have a losing season. I just don't see it happening. Like you said, Joe, I think that they got better across the board. Yeah. But with their division being so brutal, I think that they go 9-8. I do.
That's fair.
I just don't think that they're going to lose. Like I think Mike Tomlin has done something in his past life to make sure that they never have a losing record. But no, I in all seriousness, I think that they just got better as a roster, and the QB addition was huge. I guess both of the QB additions, both of them are miles better than Kenny Pickett. So yeah, I think that they'll win 9 games.
Joe, we are going to feel good at the end of the season when we are on the right side of history. The Steelers have finally had a losing record.
Doesn't it feel awful to say that?
It's not happening.
Well, no, because I still have trauma from 2009.
Oh, yeah.
But that's
fair. That's fair.
But yes, they've improved compared to last year. But I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the thing, whatever I'm just waiting for something to happen where they don't get to that 9-8 record. And I think this is the year, because while Kenny Pickett was a bad quarterback, Kenny Pickett was at least a little bit more controllable. I think bringing in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, that is going to create a dynamic that I don't think is going to be successful. I think it could create a lot of different mix and matching with quarterbacks. And I think this is the year that they finally take a step back and they finish with a losing record. Would I be shocked if they went 9-8 and somehow avoided it all again? No, but it's got to end at some point. And with the way Russell Wilson has looked the last few years, and with the way that Justin Fields has looked, despite the Steelers getting better across the board, I think that change is just going to cause enough of a shift to alter how things go, and I think it's going to cause them to lose more games.
Yeah, I'm with you.
This is a pick purely based off vibes. I just don't. I don't like Russell Wilson and what he's done the last few years. and I don't like what Justin Fields has done. I think combining that two in a quarterback room just adds for a lot of toxicity and drama that the Steelers typically do not have. And while their quarterback play and talent may be slightly better, I think there's a lot of egos that are going to have to be massaged throughout the entire year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. So, well, I'm gonna mention my 7 playoff teams here, then you guys can rattle off yours. This is tough, but like I said, my division winners are the Chiefs, Jets, Ravens, and Colts. I have the Bills still making the playoffs with 11 wins. I have the Browns and Bengals at 11 wins each. That's my 7. That leaves out the Texans and the Chargers, who I have at 10 wins apiece. Which is tough. I think any of those 4 final ones to me feel interchangeable. Again, the Colts is a bold one. That one feels like it could bite me in the butt. The Jags could do some damage. So the AFC, there's going to be 2 to 3. I mean, the Dolphins. There's going to be 2 to 4 really good teams left out of the playoffs this year. Yeah, that's going to be a tough pill for some people to swallow.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of mine. So I had the Ravens winning the division. I had the Dolphins winning the division. Mm-hmm. I had the Texans winning the division. And then who am I forgetting?
Chiefs.
Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning the division. Thank you.
Yeah. So you got 3 wild cards.
I think my 3 wild cards at that point are the Jets. I think they get in there. I think the Bills will still sneak in. Well, I think there's going to be some regression. I think that Josh Allen will do enough to get them there. And then, there's a lot of different ways we could go.
I think based on what you said, I think Cincinnati would probably make it over some of the other options, right?
Yeah, Cincinnati's got to be probably my other wild card pick as well. I think those are my 7. It's not easy because there's so many good quarterbacks, just like you've said, Joe, like Justin Herbert's getting left out in that. Anthony Richardson, the Colts are getting left out. The Jags are getting left out. There's a lot of good teams that get left behind in that situation, but that's just the reality of it.
The wild card is going to be a bloodbath.
Yes, 100%.
Kyle?
This is such a tough race to predict. But my division winners were Chiefs, Ravens, Texans, Bills. So those 4 are in. But then you have 3 spots between the Bengals, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Jags, the Browns. That's brutal. But I think I have the Jets as the odd man out. Honestly,
wow.
I think that they. I mean, I'm just going to stand on business on that take where I think they just have too much going on. Yeah. They're kind of a circus, which I wouldn't be shocked if I'm super wrong. Honestly, like I said, they have the singular widest range of outcomes. But that would leave it with the Bengals getting in, the Dolphins getting in, and shout out to Joe. I think that the Chargers will make it.
Man, all the people, Kyle's the one that put them in.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Kyle's a believer. I hope they make it.
The Chargers and Jags.
Yeah, I hope they make it. It's going to be tough, but again, I think the Browns and Bengals get in with 11 wins. Feels kind of high. Texans, Chargers, Dolphins left out. So before we finish up, though, those are kind of our AFC predictions. Before we finish up, though, I do have a couple things to say from our last episode. I'm going to walk back my Saints take a little bit. I said they were going to be in the running for a top 3 pick. I don't think so anymore. They're going to be a mid team, and they'll probably win 8 of 9 games. I think they'll actually be in the running for that division. And number 2, unfortunately, I am growing on the Seahawks. I think that they finished 3rd, and with that, I have a lot of confidence in that offense, and I think they finished 3rd in that division with the Cardinals dropping 1 spot. So we'll see where we're at. Next week when the season starts, but just wanted to make sure I put those out there. I'm impressed with Seattle right now and what I'm seeing. So
Joe's already walking back his statement.
Look, man, hey, you gotta keep things honest, right? You guys got anything else on the NFL?
The Rams will win the Super Bowl.
Over
the Patriots.
Oh man. I'd love to see Jared Goff start for the Rams in the Super Bowl again.
Who comes out of the AFC? Is it Chiefs again for you guys? Or does someone supplant them?
until they prove me wrong, like they prove me otherwise, I'm picking the Chiefs every year.
Yeah. Kyle?
Unless there is a We Are Marshall situation in Kansas City, the Chiefs are coming out of the AFC.
They are. Who'd you guys have in the NFC? Did you guys have the Niners? Scott, you had the Niners, right?
I had the Niners, yeah.
I think I did too.
Beach.
Yeah, I did too.
Right, so rematch.
I think that'd be a sick rematch too.
And especially if the Niners lose again.
Now, so, gosh, if
they
just
got the band.
So they got Ayuk now again. So I mean, they still have to sign Trent Williams, but. All right, well, that is our AFC preview there. Looking forward to the season. Go Chargers. Should be fun. You can find more of us on TikTok, on X, on Instagram, all that fun stuff on YouTube as well. We'll catch you all later. Deuces.
See ya.
Hassan Reddick, welcome to Arizona.
No.